order to complete this Juicy Juice project, you're going to have to know how to find the volume of two different three-dimensional figures. First, we have to know how to find the volume of a cylinder. The volume of a cylinder is equal to the radius squared times the height times pi, which is shown with this symbol here. And the radius is half the diameter. The diameter, remember, is the distance across the center of a circle from the widest part to the widest part. So right across the center of the circle is the diameter. So the radius is half of that, from the center of the diameter out to one of the edges. So, and pi, which is represented by this symbol here, is, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. And so we have the pi times the radius squared times the height. So we need to know the diameter so we can figure out the radius. Then we have to square that, and then we have to find the height. So we'll get into that in just a moment. If I wanted to find the volume of this can of peaches, I would multiply 3.14, which is pi, times the radius, which is, if the diameter is 3, then the radius is 1.5. So the radius squared, and then the height, which is 4.5 inches tall. And I can use my calculator to do these calculations. So here, I'm going to use my volume is equal to pi times radius squared times the height. So if the diameter is 3 inches, the radius is half of that. So I know that my radius is equal to 1.5. But then I have to square that and then multiply it by the height. So if I use my calculator, I'm going to say pi 3.14 times the radius squared. So that's 1.5 times 1.5 times the height, which is 4.5. And then I get 31 and 79. I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredth, so 79 hundredths, or I can round it to the nearest tenth, which would be 31 and 8/10 of an inch. Okay, so, and then that's what I get here when I have my peaches, my can of peaches. Remember, we have our volume is equal to pi r squared times the height. And when we figure all of that out, we come with 31 and 8/10 of a cubic inches. And so that is how we would figure out the volume of this cylinder. Then we also need to be able to find the volume of a rectangular prism. In order to find the volume of a rectangular prism, we multiply the length by the width by the height. So length times width times height. So for this project, you're going to use trial and error to record how you found the volume of a rectangular prism that comes as close to the volume of the cylinder as you can. And you can document your trials on this sheet here that's on the numbers page that you'll have. Once you have one that works, you're going to actually create a three-dimensional figure to go along with your plan. So once you have one that works, you're going to actually use paper to create the net. And the net is the different shapes that come together to make up a three-dimensional figure. So if we're making a rectangular prism, you can see that the net for a rectangular prism has 4 rectangles that are all the same size. And then it has 2 rectangles here and here that are a different size, possibly, unless it's a cube. And then this one in particular has these little flaps here that are added on to the prism, to the net, so that when you fold it, you can like kind of glue it and it stays all together. You can use paper to measure out your dimensions, and you'll be able to create your net for that project. You can also see on the project here, there's the introduction that tells you the directions, what you're going to be doing. Here, hopefully you're watching this video here to see how to find the dimensions or the volume of your cylinder using the dimensions that are given for this particular problem. We did a sample one here in this video. Then here's the page where you're going to document your trials to see how closely you can match the volume of your rectangular prism to the volume of your cylinder that you started with. On this page, this is where you'll put a photograph of your final product, which is the actual paper version of your 3D product. And of course, it needs to be accurate as far as the dimensions that you're using, and it also needs to be decorated to look like a juice container that you would find at the grocery store. And then on the very last page, you're going to add a video reflection telling about what you learned by completing this project, what was the most challenging part of the project, what did you enjoy about doing this project, and if you were to do this project all over again, is there anything that you would do differently? So hopefully you enjoy this Juicy Juice project, and I look forward to seeing the containers that you create.